Look at the ending of Stanley Kubrick's The Shining. Jack Torrance, frozen in the ice maze, is a chilling monument to his own madness. His wife and son have escaped. It seems the nightmare is over, but the camera doesn't follow them. It takes us back to the Overlook Hotel, slowly gliding down a corridor past old photographs on the wall. It stops on one, taken at a ball on the 4th of July, 1921. And in the center of the crowd, smiling right at the camera, stands Jack Torrance. I believe the question, "How is this possible?" is just the tip of the iceberg. Kubrick's genius isn't in hiding the answer, but in making us feel the eternal, cyclical nature of the evil that inhabits the hotel. The film ends, but the unease, the sense of an unsolvable mystery, stays with us. We find ourselves in the same position as the surviving characters. We've escaped the axe, but we can never fully understand the force we encountered. Notice how this ending has spawned numerous theories, each trying to explain the inexplicable. I've heard them all. One of the most popular is that the Overlook Hotel absorbed Jack's soul. He became another ghost, eternally doomed to repeat the cycle of violence, just like the previous caretaker, Grady, who tells Jack in the ominous red bathroom scene,
"You are the caretaker. You've always been the caretaker."
This theory suggests that the hotel is a predatory entity that feeds on souls, especially those who have the shining like Danny. Another theory, which Kubrick himself was said to support, is reincarnation. Jack didn't just become a part of the hotel, he was always a part of it, reborn again and again to play his role in the Overlook's bloody history. The 1921 photograph is not an absorption, but proof that he was already there. But there is a third, more disturbing possibility. What if the hotel didn't create the monster, but merely awakened the one that was already inside Jack? Remember how he lashes out at Wendy even before he sees the first ghost, before he has his first imaginary drink in the gold room. The hotel, built on an Indian burial ground, may just be a catalyst, an amplifier for the evil that already lurked within the man. These theories are not answers. They are symptoms. They are proof that the film has achieved its goal. Think about the other inexplicable phenomena, the river of blood gushing from the elevator, the pantry door being opened by Grady's ghost to let Jack out. Are these real events in the film's world, or the hallucinations of a madman? Kubrick intentionally leaves us without an answer. He has infected us with his primary virus, doubt and anxiety in the face of the incomprehensible. Unlike many other stories where evil can be defeated, the evil of the Overlook is something permanent, existing outside of time. The final shot is not a solution, but a statement. It tells us that the evil was not defeated. It is simply waiting for the next guests. The ambiguity of the ending ensures that the Overlook Hotel will live forever, not in the mountains of Colorado, but in our minds, forcing us to return again and again to its dark corridors in search of an answer that perhaps never existed. Sometimes, ambiguity is used not to immerse us in a character's emotions, but to destroy the very idea of an objective reality. Here, we encounter unreliable narrators and worlds where the line between truth and perception is blurred. Take, for example, Ridley Scott's Blade Runner. For decades, the main question of the film was, is Deckard, the replicant hunter, a replicant himself? In the 1982 theatrical version, his humanity was implied. But in the director's cut, Scott added a scene where Deckard dreams of a unicorn. And in the finale, his colleague Gaff leaves him an origami unicorn. The hint is obvious. Gaff knows what Deckard dreams about, which is only possible if his memories and dreams are implants. Ridley Scott himself put an end to the debate. He repeatedly stated very clearly,
"And how he's a replicant."
It would seem the mystery is solved, but I believe this definitive answer actually weakens the film. Its true power lies precisely in the uncertainty. The story becomes much deeper if Deckard is a human who rediscovers his humanity by looking at the desperate will of machines to live. Gaff's final line,
"It's too bad she won't live. But then again, who does?"
sounds much more powerful if it's spoken by a human contemplating his own mortality next to an artificial being. We see a completely different approach in American Psycho. Here, the ambiguity is not a philosophical question, but a scathing satire. At the end of the film, Patrick Bateman, after a series of monstrous murders, calls his lawyer and confesses everything. But the lawyer mistakes him for another person and laughs, claiming he recently had dinner with Paul Allen, one of Bateman's victims, in London. Bateman returns to Allen's apartment, where he remembered leaving the bodies, only to find it perfectly clean and up for sale. So, were the murders real? Did he blow up police cars? Did an ATM speak to him, demanding to be fed a cat?
I think the question is not, did Bateman kill, but would anyone have noticed if he did?
In this world of superficiality, consumerism, and narcissism, everyone is so self-absorbed that they can't tell one man in an expensive suit from another. His confession carries no weight because he himself is a non-entity. The ambiguity here is a verdict on society. Bateman's crimes, real or imagined, dissolve into the noise of Wall Street. His final realization, displayed on the screen, states, "This is not an exit. There is no exit because he is trapped not in a prison, but in a world that doesn't care about him." And what if ambiguity is not a puzzle, but a choice? What if the ending offers us not to solve a riddle, but to understand why the hero refuses to solve it? I'm talking about Christopher Nolan's Inception. The spinning top on the table in the final scene has become one of the most debated symbols in film history. Will it fall or not? Is it reality or a dream? For years, I watched people argue, look for clues, analyze the sound and wobble of the top, but I am convinced that they are all missing the point. Look closely at Cobb himself. He spins the top, his totem, which is supposed to determine reality, but he doesn't look at it. He turns away and goes to his children, whom he can finally embrace. The camera stays with the top, but the hero no longer does. For him, the answer is no longer important. He has made his choice. Christopher Nolan himself confirmed this. Here are his words. The way the end of that film worked, Leonardo DiCaprio's character, he was off with his kids. He was in his own subjective reality. He didn't really care anymore, and that makes a statement. Perhaps all levels of reality are valid. He says that Cobb is in his subjective reality, and he doesn't care, because perhaps all levels of reality are equally valid. Later, he was even more clear. The real point of the scene, and this is what I tell people, is that Cobb isn't looking at the top. He's looking at his kids. He's left it behind. That's the emotional significance of the thing. The real point of the scene is that Cobb isn't looking at the top. He's looking at his kids. He's left it behind. That's the emotional significance. The ending of Inception is a meta-commentary. The film teaches us the rules, gives us a tool to test reality, the totem, and then, at the crucial moment, shows that emotional truth can be more important than objective fact. Nolan offers us not a puzzle, but an idea. He says that we should pursue our reality, not our dreams. The reality we choose, the one we invest with meaning, is the one that matters. Cobb has found his reality, and whether the top fell is no longer important. There is also a deeper, more philosophical form of ambiguity. What if the future is known? Do we still have free will if we know what our choices will lead to? This is the very question that Denis Villeneuve explores in the film Arrival. The structure of this film is a perfect circle. What we initially take to be linguist Louise Banks's memories of her daughter are, in fact, visions of the future. By studying the language of the alien heptapods, she begins to perceive time non-linearly, seeing her entire life at once. She knows everything that will happen. She will fall in love with her colleague Ian. They will have a daughter, Hannah. She will love her immensely. Hannah will die of an incurable disease, and this knowledge will eventually destroy their marriage because Ian cannot forgive Louise for going through with it, knowing the end. And here's the central conflict of the film. It's not what will happen, but knowing what will happen, would you choose this path again? In the finale, Ian asks her if she wants to have a baby, and she, seeing all the future pain, says yes. Her final monologue gives us the answer.
Despite knowing the journey and where it leads, I embrace it. And I welcome every moment of it.
I think this is not a passive acceptance of fate. It is an active, conscious choice. The film offers us a radical idea. Free will is not the ability to change your destiny, but the courage to accept it in its entirety, with all its joy and all its pain. Louise doesn't choose the outcome. She chooses the path itself. She chooses the short but happy years with her daughter, even knowing the price they will cost her. Arrival resolves the paradox of free will and determinism by suggesting it is a false dichotomy. For a consciousness that sees time as a whole, a choice is not about changing the result, but about fulfilling a destiny. And finally, the most complex, most challenging endings, those that intentionally subvert our expectations, denying us catharsis and resolution. They force us to confront the chaotic, unsolvable nature of evil and of life itself. Remember No Country for Old Men by the Coen brothers. Throughout the film, we follow the confrontation between a simple welder, Llewellyn Moss, and absolute evil in the form of Anton Chigurh. We expect a final duel, a showdown between good and evil, but it never happens. Moss is killed off-screen by nameless gangsters, and Sheriff Bell, our moral compass, never meets Chigurh face-to-face. The film ends with a quiet, melancholic monologue from the old sheriff about his dreams. Many were outraged by such an ending, but that was the whole point. This is a film about how the old world confronts a new form of evil that it can neither understand nor defeat by the old rules. The Coen brothers did this consciously. Ethan Coen said, "That feeling of not having a resolution is how the story ends in the novel. We didn't want to be slavish to the book, but we loved it, and we wanted to be faithful to the spirit of it." They knew it was an anti-Hollywood move, but it was the only one true to the story. But perhaps the most radical example is the finale of The Sopranos. Tony Soprano is sitting in a diner with his family. A bell on the door jingles. He looks up, and the screen cuts to black. 10 seconds of complete darkness and silence. The end. I believe this is not a cliffhanger, but the most accurate and honest conclusion to this story. The finale places us inside Tony's head, in his perpetual paranoia. In his life, the end can come at any moment, at the hands of any person who walks through the door. And David Chase, the creator of the series, makes us experience that moment with him. Chase was openly indignant at the viewer's bloodlust, their desire to see justice and a bullet in Tony's head. Here's what he said. "The way I see it is that Tony Soprano had been people's alter ego. And then, all of a sudden, they wanted to see him punished for all that. They wanted justice. They wanted to see his brains splattered on the wall. I thought that was disgusting, frankly." He thought it was disgusting. And he gave a key clue to understanding the finale. Whether it happened that night or some other night doesn't really matter. What matters is the trend itself, the very essence of such a life, a state of perpetual anxiety where death can come at any second. The abrupt cut to black is not the end of the story, it is the whole story. It is a denial of catharsis that forces us not just to watch Tony's life, but to feel it for ourselves.